This is the As Raw podcast, and we're talking about UFC 279. This is going to be Chimaev versus Nate Diaz in a fight that kind of seems like UFC punishment to Nate Diaz, right? I mean, don't even think it seems kind of seems. I think this is exactly what it is. I think it's really, using Nate Diaz instead of trying to make to me, the most interesting fight for Nate Diaz to make the biggest fight, even the biggest fight, or most entertaining fight. No, I don't think they went for that at all. I think they want to feed Nate Diaz to Chimaev to prove a point, but also to, punish Nate, but also to use Nate if they're gonna only have one more fight left with him. They're gonna get full use out of him to build another fighter. That's just the truth of it. That's the way I see it. I don't think that this is a. Let me pull the fight poster right before I get too much into this. I don't think this is a fight that Nate can win. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I will give a scenario on if he were to win this fight, what it would take, in my opinion. But I don't think it's a fight he can win. And the one thing about Nate Diaz is he's not a 170 pounder, right? Now, he may not be a 155 pounder anymore. He may not be able to make that weight, but because the UFC's weight classes are so far apart, and 15 pounds is far apart for a weight class, he probably is a 160-pound fighter now, right? Maybe even 163, 65. But they don't have that in MMA or UFC. So now he has to fight at 170. And this is probably why guys' careers come to an end, right? Their primes end kind of quickly, and they stop being effective all of a sudden, is because they don't have weight classes to move up to, right? Like in boxing, you fight 154 pounds and you fight that, say, to your 26. You no longer can make that weight. All you have to go up is 6 more pounds to middleweight. That's it. You just have to go up that. So that prolongs your career, right? Because you can't make this weight anymore, but you're not going to fight 170. But like if you're 154 pounds, and let's just say, just give you an example, Jermell Charlo, right? And I know this is the MMA one, the UFC one, so I don't know if people listen to this know boxing or vice versa, whatever. But say you're Jermell Charlo, right? Undisputed champ of the world, 154 pounds. Now let's say he says, I can't make this weight anymore. I just can't, right? I'm getting to my 30s. I can't make this weight. I'm still on top of my game. What do I do? What do I have to do, right? Well, if you're in MMA, right? So just compared like in boxing, right? You got to go to 170 pounds. So who would be 170 pounds? Oh, you would have to go fight David Benavidez. You have to go fight Canelo Alvarez. You would have to go fight Caleb Plant, right? That's still above their weight class because they're really 167 pounds, right? But let's just say 170. That's where you would go. You would have to fight those guys. Do you understand like how drastic that's not even like imaginable boxing? Like no one is saying Jermell Charlo is ever going to fight David Benavidez. No one is ever saying that. That's what we expect in MMA is a guy that's 155 pounds. As soon as he can't make that weight anymore, right? Just can't get down one more pound. He has to go to 170 pounds. So think of it. I'm saying Jermell Charlo, right? Which there is questions of Jermell Charlo making 54 going forward. From there, he would have to go. And he's in the prime of his career. He's in the best, but he just can't make the weight anymore just because he's getting older. He has to go to 170 pounds now. Now, do you think he's going to be effective at that weight? Probably not. No, probably not. He's going to be undersized. So he's going to start losing. So they're going to be like, oh, what happened to him? So his only other option is to keep making weight in a weight class he can't make weight anymore. So you think he's going to be effective while really draining himself like that? No, he's not. So the weight class, really, the limited options of weight class is determining and probably eliminating a lot of guys, effective fighters, from being good anymore. It's just something to consider. But he gets an Nate Diaz, right? He gets this scenario. Nate Diaz is 170 pounders. It's not really 170 pounder. And I think people are thinking of only the 170 pound run that he's in right now. That he fought Jorge Masvidal, he's fought Leon Edwards. I really think that's the only weight class. That's the only welterweight run that they're thinking about. But the Nate Diaz fought 170 pounds before. I think he fought a fight that's going to look similar to this fight. And that was against Rory McDonald. He fought at 170 pounds. And he got ragdolled that fight. He did. He go look at it. And I'm not over-exaggerating. It's not, a lot of people say, oh, he got ragdolled. And it's over-exaggeration. This isn't over-exaggeration. He is literally tossed. Literally goes to Suplex City like Brock Lesnar. He literally goes to Suplex City in that fight. And that's what I expect in this fight. Because Chimaev's a big 170. He's fought at 185 comfortably and is was been very effective at 185. Has a one-punch knockout at 185. And Chimaev being a big 170, fighting an undersized 170, is going to be able to throw him around wherever he wants. And Nate Diaz, whose jiu-jitsu is very good, I think that people use that and they make it like if it's some mythical thing, but jiu-jitsu still needs weight classes. And the effectiveness goes down a lot when a guy is much stronger than you, and he's still very skilled on the ground. And Chimaev is very skilled on the ground, and he's very skilled on top, and he's very skilled at inflicting damage on top. So not only will Nate be out strengthened in this fight, he'll also have to be worrying about the damage coming from the top. So he's not like his ground game is going to be super effective in this fight. It's just not. And he's never shown to be a guy that can stop takedowns, especially at 170 pounds. And I know Chael Sonnen just came out and was talking about a story where, Nate Diaz stopped every one of his takedowns. Just stopped it. Just stopped every one of his takedowns. And it was just, he just did it because he didn't want to go to the ground that day. That's fine to say. It's a fine story, right? It's interesting. Grabs your attention, but he's never shown that in a fight. So if he showed that again in this fight, it'd be the first time I've ever seen him show it. That's just honest truth. I think Chimaev's going to get in, take him down, and put a beating on him. And I think that Chimaev's going to, maybe he'll exchange hands early, right? But that's just to get to a spot. Chimaev's not a guy like to take chances just to take chances. No, he's going in there to be effective. Chimaev has not had any really massive paydays yet. He hasn't got any massive opportunities yet. He's just his first main event on a pay-per-view. I think it might be his first main event ever, I'll be honest with you, but his first main event on pay-per-view, that's for sure. This is a man that's hungry to prove a point, and you're fighting Nate Diaz, who I said already has all the physical disadvantages. Also, it seems like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of fighting, or especially in the UFC, but maybe even in fighting in general. Definitely not his most motivated. Definitely not looking to build off of this. Definitely understands kind of the situation that he's in. Now, is there a scenario where I say, is there a scenario that I could see Nate Diaz winning? I don't see Nate Diaz winning this fight. I'm just going to make that clear. I got Chimaev winning. I think he wins by second round stoppage, even possibly the first. I think the damage is going to be very apparent early in this fight. But you got to remember that Chimaev applies his game very fast. And it takes a lot of energy, and he seems like he kind of diminishes a little bit, right? Like if you look at the Burns fight in the second round, he kind of gas tank falls, right? You see the grappling tournaments he does, definitely more effective early on than he is later on. The one thing about Nate Diaz is he's a good survivor. He's durable, he's tough, he's going to work through it. Even if he's cut up, beat up, he's going to get up, go to the corner, and come back the next round. And this is say Chimaev really puts it on in the first round, he survives it. And then he really gets put it on in the second round. Well, this is the main event of pay-per-view. You got 3 more rounds to go. And if Chimaev's energy dips, that means his technique's going to go. That means his strength's going to go. That means his speed's going to go. Well, suddenly all these advantages he has, they start bringing down. He starts leveling out. And Nate Diaz's gas tank's not going to stop. And he can get confident. If you remember the success he has against Leon Edwards later in the fight, if you remember the Masvidal fight, even though because the cuts stop it, he starts having a little more success in the fight. He works through all the damage he's taking. So let's just say he just gets to that point where he took all the damage. Chimaev slows down just a little bit. Takedowns are not as effective. And even if he does get a takedown, he's definitely not consistent with his offense on top. He's definitely not consistent with the positioning. Maybe leaves a little bit of openings for Nate Diaz. That's going to be Nate Diaz's best chance. Is surviving the beating early. Then maybe he can keep it standing. Maybe get his hands going at that point. Nate Diaz still has power to his weight. I mean, look at what he just did to Leon Edwards. He had him rocked last round, end of the round. Maybe at that point he could start putting on Chimaev. But that's really what it's going to take. It's going to take later rounds for Nate Diaz. I don't see it happening. I don't see him getting past the second round. I really don't. I think this could be a very brutal fight, very one-sided fight, and I think it's going to look the way the UFC thinks it's going to look. The UFC, they make fights, and I know they seem like, oh, best fight the best and all this thing. But a lot of times they make fights, they assume what's going to happen, right? They have a plan for what's going to happen. They know what's going to happen in this fight. They know that Chimaev is going to build his name with Nate Diaz. They know that he's going to look dominant, and it will could get him to a title shot and would be a good event because he used Nate Diaz as a stepping stone. On the co-main event, we have another guy that's should be done fighting, Tony Ferguson versus Lin Jinglang, sorry. And Ferguson, who, showed glimpses against Chandler, right? Showed glimpses. I think that people would be actually kind of, surprised that more really what he showed that he can't keep up anymore is on the ground. But Ferguson was kind of always like dangerous on the ground, but now he just cannot keep up. Like if someone is an effective wrestler, effective guy with jiu-jitsu, and takes him down, effective grappler, you could just really maul him, and he just really has no answers. He can't keep up with that, and he can't really avoid the ground. But I don't think he has to worry about that in this fight because Jing Lang is going to look to stand up with him, and he's very one-dimensional. Uses his feet, and it's not really like even a defensive way. It's more like to explode into a position, right, and use it like a more of element of surprise of when he's coming in. But all the shots are coming from the same spot, and it's he's got a big right hand, and he's gonna look to bounce in and out until he jumps in with it, and his head goes in the same spot, and he's readable, right? Nothing really too complicated about stand-up. Now Ferguson, like I said in the Chandler fight, will still show that he has some stand-up timing still down, has some power still there. Now it definitely lost speed, definitely doesn't have the coordination anymore. I told you, definitely all this damage he took, especially in the Gaethje fight, he's not the same fighter. And I really worry about Tony Ferguson. I think that it's very dangerous that he's still fighting. I worry about his health. I worry about all the shots he's taking, especially because he was just flatlined by Chandler. That in a fight like this, moving up to 170 pounds, where he's not 170 pounds, it's the same scenario we just explained with Nate Diaz about coming from 155 to 170. I don't, especially when I say when you do that late in your career, I just don't see, I just know that's the beginning of the end. I think he's going to have success in this fight, though. I really do. I think that he's going to show some things. He's going to land on Lin. He's going to show still some timing, still show some creativity with the striking, still show some pop. I still don't think he wins the fight, though. I still think if 3 rounds, Lin lands that right hand once, Tony cannot take that power anymore. He cannot take those shots. I expect Tony to win the first round. I expect him to win the first half of the second round. I think late in the second round, he will get caught. He will get hurt. And Jing Lang will win the fight by stoppage. Ferguson should not be fighting anymore. That's just my personal opinion, but I think that there's good evidence to show that he shouldn't be fighting anymore. He's been through a lot of wars, through a lot of damage, and he's taken a lot of damage. I don't think he should fight anymore. I think moving to 170 pounds isn't going to help the situation. In the fight before that, we have Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. And Daniel Rodriguez is an interesting fighter. He has a big left hand. He has a very big straight left hand. And actually his striking is it's pretty tight. It's pretty clean. It's not the most creative. It doesn't have the wide variety to it, but he knows what he's good at, and he's going to keep trying to go for it, right? And he's got a 1-2, but that left hand is really what his moneymaker is. Now, he definitely loses his legs. He's definitely not someone that could build off of his offense. He keeps to the basics, keeps to the fundamentals. It looks smooth when he's doing it, but he will lose his legs, will overcommit, he will get tense up. Now, Kevin Holland is a guy that has way more variety, way more free with what he's doing, but definitely loses his legs, definitely gets happy feet in there, definitely floats. Been pretty effective since moving to 170. He used to fight at middleweight, which he went on a good run. It's the exact same time that Chimaev made his run. Kevin Holland was making his run too at middleweight. Then he ran into a few guys that were grapplers, and he just showed the no ability to stop someone from taking them down to the ground over and over and over again. Now, it could have been a size advantage thing that where he just didn't have the technique. And when you don't have the technique, especially the size advantage is going to come in a big way because the guys could just maul you down. Now he's getting to 170 pounds. He's working on the technique, but we haven't really seen it tested out. You're not going to see it tested out in this fight. Rodriguez is going in there to strike. That's good for Kevin Holland. The bad thing for Kevin Holland is he's hittable. And the thing for Kevin Holland is he's going to stay in there because he really believes in his offense. He really believes in his power. But he's got to be very careful from that straight left hand. Now, the good thing is he can create offense. He can mix things together. He could look for a takedown himself. I think once he starts connecting things, being creative and not just stopping, right? Not just one shot. No, if he goes 1, 2, gets on the inside, gets a clinch, or all those things, I think that's when he'll start being able to expose the flaws in Daniel's game. But if he stays in front of him and they're looking to exchange shots, well, Daniel will be really effective in the fight. Not saying he'll win the fight, but he'll be really effective. I think early on he'll be effective in this fight. I think Kevin Holland will eventually start connecting his offense together and flowing into things. And when Daniel maybe lands a straight left or lands a 1-2, Kevin Holland's not going to stop. He'll respond right after it. And I think that Daniel doesn't have that kind of game. He's got to reset. And once he has to do that, I think he gets in trouble in this fight. I'm going to take Kevin Holland in this fight. I think I'll take him by stoppage. I'll say about the second round as well for this fight. Like I said, early on, I think that's going to be both are going to land good shots. But I think that once Kevin Holland gets in the fight, gets in the rhythm of the fight, and starts connecting his offense together, I don't think that Rodriguez will be able to keep up with that. It's a very interesting fight. I think it's might be the best fight on the card, honestly. I am very curious to see Aldana fight. She was my pick to be champion in bantamweight by the end of the year. It hasn't really played out that way. She lost to Holly Holm, which, she lost to Holly Holm, which I think at that point in 2020 kind of slowed down her momentum. She got a win back in 2021. This is her first time fighting in 2022. So definitely hasn't went the way so far that I thought it would go for her, but I think she's very interesting with her stand-up. So I think she's definitely interesting to watch. I think it's all around kind of a weak card, if I'm being honest with you. And I think the main event, they're using the two names, especially Nate Diaz's name, to sell the event. But I broke it down. I think if you go into these fights with like more information, you become more interested in it, right? You become, how do I say it? Like, I don't know. To me, when I have more build up on a fight or someone's telling me like, oh, it's going to look this way and like that, you kind of want to see it, right? You want to see if it plays out. You're more invested in it. So hopefully that's what this podcast did. It got you more invested in the fight. Even though it's not the best matchup, you'll be interested to see how it plays out and see if Nate Diaz can maybe survive the early onslaught and see if it gets interesting late and see if Chimaev slows down. Because what if he doesn't, right? What if he doesn't? He stays consistent like that for 5 rounds. Then it's going to be really brutal beating. So we've got to see how it plays out. Thank you guys for listening. This has been the As Raw podcast.